Speaking of doublethink, allow me to posit two propositions to you that are quite contradictory, yet nevertheless are fervently and passionately believed in by the vast majority of the public. You ready? Proposition the first. The government of, insert your country of origin and or residence here, is run by criminal psychopaths. And proposition the second. Yeah, but we need them in order to run government program or service of choice here. This contradiction comes to mind because I was recently listening to Dr. Bob Murphy being interviewed by Scott Horton on the Scott Horton Show, and they were talking about the Trump Care, Obamacare debacle. And Bob made, I think, the very salient observation that it's funny how the leftists and progressives can identify, quite accurately so, the psychopathy of the criminal warmongers, the bloodthirsty criminals who have no compunction about spilling the blood of innocent men, women, and children around the globe in pursuit of their geopolitical aims or financial ends, and yet somehow think these same criminal, bloodthirsty psychopaths care about them and want to give them free health care from heaven and all of this. It's absurd on its face, and yet is fervently believed in by the left side of the phony left-right psyop. And to be fair, although this wasn't part of the context of the conversation that Bob and Scott were having, it's nonetheless true for people on the right side of the left-right psyop who can accurately identify the psychopathy of a Obama or a Clinton or someone of that ilk, and yet still, well, we need those psychopathic warmongers to run the military and the police state and all the things that the people on the right love so much. And those contradictions are understandable from our perspective outside of the normie political realm, and we see the types of lame excuses that these people in the left-right psyop make for their political proclivities. They'll say, yeah, well, no, you see, it's more nuanced than that, James. See, the people with the R after their name are the bloodthirsty, warmongering psychopaths, and the people with the D after their name are angels descended from heaven in order to give us free healthcare and all the things that we like. So, for some reason or other, half of the population continues to vote for and support these bloodthirsty warmongers, and then the other half is constantly warring with them through the ballot box. And that's what the whole thing is about, James. Or people on the, again, victims on the right side of the left-right psyop. No, James, it's the people with the D's after their name that are the psychopath criminals, and only the virtuous R's can descend from heaven and bestow all of this great manna of the police state and borders and all of that. Those are the ones that are going to steer us all. Now, you would think that people who are in the conspiracy realist realm, you would say, would see through that and would understand that no one with any D or any R after their name, any left or right, any part of that political spectrum, anywhere on there at all, is ever going to fundamentally expose the elite criminal pedophile rings that are at the top of government. There's a person kind of dangled out here, a little show trial there. You know, Dennis Hastert will go to jail for a few months, but yeah, he was the Speaker of the House involved in serial child rape. I mean, whatever, you know, it's no big deal. And nothing to look into. We don't need to look into any of these connections or any of the things pointed out by these crazy conspiracy realists like Sibel Edmonds, who knows that Dennis Hastert was part of a much broader network and was involved in much darker things than have come out in court. But, you know, whatever. She was right about Hastert all along, but let's not, you know, countenance what she's doing. No, of course, none of those political criminal psychopaths are ever going to expose the fundamental truths about the pedophile rings, about the kakistocracy, about 9/11 truth or false flag terror or Operation Gladio or any of the million things that viewers of the Corporate Report know about. And yet, people who self-style themselves as truthers still, for the vast majority of them, still cling to statism. For them, it's still this idea. It's this, oh yes, well, there is this kakistocracy, this criminal psychopath class, these horrible, pedophiles and all of this that run the government. But that's just a contingency. If we just vote the right people into those positions of power, then everything will be better again. And we can have all these wonderful things from government. Well, I'm here to tell you today that absolutely 100%, those positions of power, the entire trough, has been created by and for the criminal psychopaths. They are the ones with the bloodthirsty desire to rule over as many people as possible, and they are the ones who created the positions so that they could populate those positions. Government is not contingently run by psychopaths. It is necessarily run by the most ruthless, bloodthirsty, warmongering, criminal psychopaths. It always has been. It always will be. There is no voting out the criminal psychopaths and voting in a virtuous bunch of wonderful people who will steer the ship of state in the right direction. That is the ultimate delusion. Now, if you don't know about criminal psychopathy as it relates to the political class, I will wholeheartedly suggest you check out Political Ponerology by Andrew Lobaczewski, the obviously seminal work on this subject that I did mention in episode 90 of my podcast, Our Leaders Are Psychopaths, which was recently renewed by Brock West, video editor for the Corbett Report Extras channel. So if you haven't listened to or seen that podcast yet, I suggest you do so and start thinking about the criminal psychopaths who necessarily populate government. And then start thinking about, well, maybe government isn't the answer to the problems that government creates. What a crazy idea. Where does that lead you? So, anyway, that's the thought for the day for today. I think we have to address this fundamental issue of the fact that the systems of control were created by and for the criminal psychopaths in order to rule over you. And the sooner we all understand that, the better for everyone involved. That's the thought for today. James Corbett, CorbettReport.com.